Hello, everybody. Welcome to the lineup. It's so nice to see you again. We have a lot of familiar faces in the names in the gallery. Thank you for joining us. We have a super special event for you today where we are celebrating Soho Press's 40th birthday, and we've brought out an all-star team of authors to talk to you about their first in series, some of the most iconic Soho books. Of course, there are many, but we're very excited to bring you some potentially new names so you can add them to your TBR. We're going to do a little bit of housekeeping before we jump in. If this is your first time that you're joining us for a lineup, this is a series that we do to platform Soho crime authors, put them in conversation with other Soho crime authors to talk about their work. Our next event will be a special preview of Robin Geigel's new procedural, All We Hide, and that's going to take place on July 21st at 1 p.m. Eastern Time. So we'll have a link to register for that very soon. Keep an eye out for that. If you've signed up for newsletters at the beginning of your registration process, you'll get notified about that very soon. Of course, we couldn't do this event without help from Mystery to Me bookstore in Madison, Wisconsin. Elizabeth and her team work really hard to keep us online and talking to you every month. So if you're interested in one of these books, do consider purchasing it from Mystery to Me by clicking this green button down here at the bottom of your screen. It just helps us keep the series going, and it helps Mystery to Me continue to do great work in Madison and beyond. Finally, we are going to, of course, give away our gift cards at the end of this event. So just by registering, just by attending this event live, you have been entered to win a gift card to Mystery to Me. Make sure you stick around for the end of the event to know whether or not you've won. And we'll be doing a Q&A around that time as well. So if at any point during the event you have a question for any of the authors, feel free to drop it in the Q&A box, which is on the right side of your screen. It's a little question mark in a speech bubble, or you can put it in the chat. Which is where some of you are already chatting. So thank you for being in there. Finally, without further ado, I am pleased to introduce you to the authors that are going to be speaking about their books today. Stephen Mack Jones is a published poet, award-winning playwright, and winner of the Kresge Arts in Detroit Literary Fellowship. Stephen has received many accolades for his August Snow crime thriller series. August Snow won the Nero Award, and he has been shortlisted for the Ian Fleming Steel Dagger Award and a finalist for the Seamus Award, as well as the Strand Critics Award. August Snow was named a Michigan Notable Book by the Library of Michigan. He received that honor again for Dead of Winter. In 2018, the International Association of Crime Writers presented Stephen with the prestigious Hammett Prize for literary excellence in the field of crime writing. He currently lives in the suburbs of Detroit, and Stephen will be talking about his August Snow series today, and he'll be starting very shortly. Agnete Friis has co-authored 4 novels in the award-winning New York Times bestselling Nina Borg series: The Boy in the Suitcase, Invisible Murder, Death of a Nightingale, and The Considerate Killer. She lives in Copenhagen. What My Body Remembers was her solo debut, and Agnete will be talking about her Nina Borg series today. Mette Ivie Harrison, now Mette Marie Ivie, is the national best-selling, award-winning author of The Bishop's Wife, published in 2014 with Soho Press. She holds a PhD in Germanic languages and literatures from Princeton, is divorced, and now works in the financial industry. For nearly 50 years, she was an active, believing Mormon, but has distanced herself from the church and only attends occasionally now. She has 5 living children and lost her youngest at birth in 2005. She is an accomplished, nationally ranked triathlete and has competed in 2 Ironman World Championships. Mette will be talking about her Linda Walheim series today. And finally, Juliet Grimes, the national and international best-selling author of The 7 or 8 Deaths of Stella Fortuna and The Lost Boy of Santa Quinoa. She is the beloved editorial director of Soho Press and has curated the Soho Crime imprint since 2010. She's the recipient of the Mystery Writers of America Ellery Queen Award for editorial contributions to the genre. And Juliet will be popping in and out throughout the event to speak more about some iconic Soho authors who couldn't be here today to discuss their books. So first of all, we're going to bring up Stephen Mack Jones to talk to us about August Snow. Stephen, thank you for joining us.
How you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
Good. Not shabby, I guess.
Not shabby. Please allow me to shut up and tell us about August Snow.
Well, what to know about August Snow? It started out as a way of entertaining myself. I was in advertising for a long time, and then I became a stay-at-home dad to a son who will be 30 this year. Well, anyway, so I started to tell myself a story, and the story needed a hero's name, and I had no name, so the name came to me while I was mowing my back lawn. Two words, August and snow, and I didn't know what the two had going together. And it just so happens that in the outline for the story that I had, everywhere the hero said something or acted on something, I had written in all caps, hero. Seeing as naming a character in fiction is a lot better and a lot easier than talk therapy, I named the hero August Snow, and that's where he was born. August is half Black, half Mexican American. Kind of reflective of the two largest minorities in Detroit. He lives in a portion of Detroit called Mexican Town, which has been around for, I believe, 120 years. It was first a place where doctors, lawyers, politicos lived, and then it slowly transitioned to an area where Mexican Americans moved to and became a community of their own. His father was an African American Detroit cop, and his mother was a fine arts painter. The first book, August Snow, he has been fired from the police force. And his reason for being fired was his investigation into the city mayor's office. And that's something that you simply don't do. So he brings suit, files suit against the city, wins $12 million, and lives in his deceased parents' old home in the old neighborhood in Mexican Town. He no longer wants to do police work, but he is called into action by a lady that owns a investment bank in Detroit, and she wants him to investigate things at her bank. He refuses to, and then the next day she is found dead of what is thought to be a self-inflicted wound. So August has never really turned away from a challenge. I mean, that's who he is. That is part of his upbringing as a child and part of who he is as a former Marine. So he finds himself in the middle of a little bit of trouble and a lot of gunfire for investigating what is going on at Eleanor Paget's bank. And that essentially constitutes the first book. You get to meet some of his neighbors. who are a very interesting lot as he tries to bring his neighborhood back, as he tries to renovate homes in the area. So that's a little bit about August.
For folks
Questions?
for folks that haven't read any of the August Snow series, like how would you describe the series for people who might want to pick it up?
I would describe the series as fast moving, first person. You're getting to know August and his neighbors through his own voice. He is a man of good heart. He's got a bit of a smart mouth on him. But I guess he's earned that as both a former police officer and a former Marine. I think readers will enjoy the various dynamics of not only his investigation, but his relationships with people, what he takes seriously. And I've often described August Snow as almost a love letter to my parents, who tried to raise me right, and I think they did a good job. I leave that to others. But the stories can get dark, but I'm not a person who likes to wallow in darkness. I think readers will be entertained, informed, learning about what is modern Detroit as opposed to the long-running stereotype of Detroit. Things are really changing in this city. So,
Absolutely. Steve, thank you so much for coming on. Steven's staying, so if you
thank
have
you.
any questions, pop them in the chat. He'll come on back near the end of the event and answer anything that you have. Thanks so much. We're going to bring Juliet up now to speak about our first author who could not be here today.
Well, Lily, before we do that, I have to say that Steve is burdened by having someone who edited several of his August Snow books on the call right now. So I just wanted to say that probably he's too humble to say this himself. One of the amazing things about that series is how each of the books, which, these are like explosive, fast-moving thrillers that are very much set in our real world, but they also so thoughtfully drill down on a really hot-button social issue. And I think the way he did that, the timeliness with which he did that for each book, really capturing something that has pulled a lot of heartstrings or been in the news constantly lately. It's one of the reasons that these books not only made such a huge splash when they first came out, but why they continue to be read so widely now. And I love his work there. He's really courageous and unrelenting in that respect. So, yeah, thank you, Steve, for publishing with us.
Yeah, I kind of forget what was my editor's name. Oh gosh, lovely person. No, Juliet.
I heard she was a bit of a crank.
Juliet, I cannot thank you and Soho enough for the faith that you had in me, the patience, and the knowledge that you freely offered to me. So
The privilege is ours, you know. We're here to try to help support art, and we knew it when you crossed my desk. I think everyone knew right away this book was going to last forever. So thank you, Steve.
Well, I'm just overwhelmed is all. I'm overwhelmed at how, and I don't want to take up too much more time, but how Soho has grown from that idea of the two founders, Bronwyn's mother and her friend, how this publishing house has grown so smartly, so with humanity and extraordinary intelligence, and just finding some of the absolute best writers worldwide. So I'm thrilled to be part of that, honored. I that's where I'm at.
There couldn't be a nicer sentiment to have inspired on our 40th anniversary. Thank you, Steve.
You're welcome.
So my mandate today is to talk about 4 authors who couldn't be here to talk about themselves. I'm going to begin with a book I am just so very proud to have published. From now on, I will be putting the books I talk about into the chat so you guys can look them up, because I didn't give anyone any warning what I was going to be talking about. So the first one I just put in there is a book by an author named F.H. Batakan, and the book is called Smaller and Smaller Circles. Soho published this book in 2015, but we weren't the first to publish it. This book is truly one of the groundbreaking, amazing crime novels in world literature. It is known, widely regarded as the first ever Filipino crime novel. It was published for the first time in a short novella format in the Philippines in 2002, where it went on to win both the National Book Award and a literary prize for debut authors. And when this book came to my attention and I saw the work the author was doing, I reached out to her and I asked if she would be willing to expand this novella into a novel. And as it turned out, she had been working on such a project for 10 years already. It is, like I said, truly, truly a groundbreaking book. The plot is set in Payatas, which is a dump city in the middle of Manila. So it's literally a dump where people were living that has now been cordoned off because it was not containable by law enforcement, and no one goes there anymore except the people who live there. And this story covers the drama around a serial killer who is operating in this dump city, completely unapprehendable because no one cares about the people who live there. And it's only the children who are disappearing and their parents who are left to grieve them. Into this breach step 2 Jesuit priests who also happen to be forensic experts. And together they try to cover that breach and to solve this crime that no one else cares to solve. So with this book, Batakan, who I should say was a member of the Philippine intelligence community and then went on to become a broadcast journalist, she really courageously tackled so much in the novel, from general governmental corruption to the abuses of the Catholic Church, which is so very integrated into every facet of the society. And I think that she especially created a thought-provoking nuance by making the heroes of the story Catholic as well. She's offered a whole range of ways to think and talk about the modern Philippines and what crime there is. And in all of this, it is a particularly well-crafted traditional crime mystery. If you want to solve it alongside the detectives, I think any puzzle mystery fan will enjoy it. But this is a book, like I said, I'm so proud to have it on our list. In the 11 years since we've published it, it has justifiably become a classic. It's been made into a film. It is one of those books that we just print again and again and sell every year. And I think, you should definitely check it out. That's all I have to say about F.H. Vatican.
Thank you so much, Juliet. It is so good. I put the little link from Mystery to Me Books in the chat as well.
It's a corker. Okay, I'll go to the gallery now.
See ya soon. We're gonna bring Agnete up now. Hi, Agnete. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
For your first lineup event.
Yes, exciting. And congratulations on the what's it called? The Jubilee?
Yes.
The anniversary.
Yeah. It's a Jubilee as well. Yeah. What can you tell us about Nina Borg in the series?
Well, Nina Borg is a series that came to life really with my co-writer, Line Copable. She was the one who got the original idea for this series. And at that time, she was an established writer for young adults, and a very successful one. And I was working as a journalist and hadn't really written before. But our roads crossed, and she was a bit hesitant to write crime fiction. She had the idea, but she thought, oh, it's a lot of research. I'll bring in a journalist who also has never written a crime novel. So it was our very first experiment, and we had no idea how we would do it. And actually, we didn't really have the story either. Lena just had a picture of a small boy folded in a briefcase, and so we had to work out what kind of story was this. She knew it was probably something illegal, and that's what we worked from. So gradually we came up with Nina Borg, who is a Red Cross nurse. And in the first installment, Boy in the Suitcase, she is called by a friend and asked to pick up a suitcase in the Copenhagen Central Station. And she finds out when opening it that there is a boy inside the suitcase, about 4-year-old and alive. She cannot reach the friend. She doesn't know where the boy come from and what's wrong with him. But being a Red Cross nurse, she is a bit suspicious about just handing him over to the authorities, because she gathers that he's a foreigner. He's not from Denmark. And in Denmark, as anywhere else in the world, if you're inside the system and if you have a citizenship, you are comfortable and you have all the rights and securities that apply to a citizen. If you're outside of the system, you are vulnerable to all sorts of things. And Nina Borg works at a refugee center, and a lot of people, she knows that a lot of people does not go to the authorities with whatever problems they have, because going to the police might give them problems that eventually can get them evicted from the country. Long story short, she decides to take matters into her own hand and try to find out where the mother is of this young boy. And I would say it's more thriller than actual crime fiction. She's not a detective by any means. Nina Borg is more a person who wants to save people. We thought we were really clever when we came up with Nina Borg, because we didn't want a detective and we didn't want a policeman, but we still needed someone who would routinely meet people who was outside of the law. And one of the things you all often get annoyed with when reading crime fiction is, why do people not just call the police? That would be the most simple solution. And coming up with Nina Borg, we had her coming into contact frequently with people who could not just call the police, because that would get them into trouble. So that was one of our ambitions with the series, to sort of show the difference of being inside the system and outside of the system. Because you have people in your country that are living in your country. They walk on the street right next to you, but they do not enjoy the same security as you do. And in many ways, those are invisible people. And this goes, I guess, all over the world. In any kind of system, you can make the most perfect system in the world, and you will still have people who, for one reason or another, are vulnerable because they cannot contact authorities, police, healthcare services, whatever, because eventually they can get into trouble with that. Another ambition was to try to investigate a little bit, to see a little bit more of Europe. So we had as a plan for each book that we visited a new country each time. So for Nina Borg, it was Lithuania, and a country that none of us knew very well. But we knew, because we were co-authoring, that we had to see the places we were writing about. So we didn't write about two completely different places. So for each book, we took a small road trip to Lithuania, Hungary, Ukraine as well. So we've been road tripping a lot in Europe with these books.
That's amazing. It's such an interesting premise, Boy in the Suitcase, and you do such a good job of describing the series as a whole. And I didn't realize that they were somewhat road trip novels for you, at least. That's kind of cool too.
Yeah, you have to. I mean, we were two people. We just had to have the same images when we were setting a scene. So we quickly found out that was something we had to do to sort of agree on what we were writing about.
Absolutely. Had you met? But you had met before, or had you never met?
I had written one child, what's it called, young adult fantasy novel, and that's how we met, because she was a very established author. So social gatherings, and that's how we met. But we didn't really know each other before we started writing. So it was. I'm still pretty shocked that we could do it, actually, because it's like getting married, basically. I think for this we wrote 4 books, and so it means we wrote together for 7, almost 8 years. So it's really a commitment.
No kidding. Well, thank you so much, Agnete, for coming and speaking about it. Again, Agnete will be staying around, so if you have some questions, feel free.
I have 2 cents. I have 2 cents on this. I don't know, Agnete, if you know this, but I really associate you very deeply with my time at Soho, because Boy in the Suitcase was the first one.
Yeah, I know.
I had when I got here, and I just, it was sort of the top submission on my pile when I get to my new desk and I read this mind-blowingly amazing book, and I thought, hey, my job here is going to be easy if everything I'm reading is this good. but you guys, truly one of a kind character with Nina Borg.
So we were each other's first.
It
was perfect. And I remember you picking us up in the airport. It was so nice to see your smiling face.
Oh, you're really nice. You're not going to tell the people about that time I met you at the train station and we had to lie to the...
Yeah, didn't buy...
I never know tell that story. That's a different story.
Okay. Yes, the glamorous road trip we took with Juliet.
It was, Very glamorous.
Yes.
Another justifiable classic on the Soho list, Nina Borg. What she does, if I can add just one more piece to what Agnete was saying, but the reason I think she's such a powerful sort of feminist linchpin in this genre is because Lena and Agnete made a character who is so deeply relatable. These are really closely told thrillers, and Nina is definitely imperfect. She's a workaholic. She's so devoted to saving other people that her professional life and where she crosses the line there, trying to be helpful, treads upon her personal life and her own relationship to her own family and her own children. So the series, over the arc of these 4 books, it interrogates what it means to be a mother in our society, and like who is mothering all the unmothered in the world, right? And then also the burden put on women to mother at home. And I think for me, these books are so deeply resonant because they each do tackle a specific social issue, a certain place. They transport you, fantastic armchair travel, but also in addition, those issues are so real and so vibrant and so well done, just really well done.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you, guys. So Lily, I think I'm going to smash 2 authors together here in this middle portion because I couldn't think of any other more profound contrast, basically, to introduce. First, I want to talk about an author named Fuminori Nakamura, and I'll highlight his English language debut, The Thief, which I've put into the chat, but I'll mention a couple of his other titles. So Fuminori Nakamura is perhaps one of the names that is most closely associated with the Soho crime identity at this point. He has a cult following that is so rich and multivalent that he's the one I think people so often are like, oh, Soho, I published Fuminori Nakamura, which I'm so honored. He is unique on our list in the kind of crime fiction he does. He publishes what I consider ultra noir. This is the very darkest of worldview, where he will explore basically what the human soul hides in its deepest recesses, and in this, he follows in a tradition, as he has named it in interviews, of like Osamu Dazai and the great noir practitioners of the middle of the century, in addition to people like Agatha Christie, who he adores. Nakamura was a wonderkind in Japan when he debuted with his Japanese debut is a book called The Gun, which we also published. It's also excellent. That came out in 2003 when he was only 25 years old, and it won the Noma Prize, one of the big prizes in Japan. He went on to win the Akutagawa, which is basically the Japanese Pulitzer, and a whole range of other prizes, almost the whole litany. The Thief, which was his debut, English language debut, came to us on the back of the Oe Prize, which was established by Nobel laureate Kenzaburo Oe, who hand chose this book to say that this is an author who needs wider dissemination than just Japan. So he sponsored basically the publisher to take the book out more largely to the world, which is how I came in contact with it. The Thief is fantastic, slim little book. It's only about it's less than 30,000 words, so you will read it in one sitting. And it is about a pickpocket who works in the Tokyo subways, and it's a day in his life where you watch him work and you watch him meet a nemesis, and it's just this gorgeous little noir gem that everyone loves. You'll also want to check out, if you do like ultra noir, his other cult classics include books like My Annihilation, great noir title, and The Rope Artist, which came out recently. Last winter we parted the kingdom, and Cult X, which is about a cult in Tokyo, one of our ongoing bestsellers on our backlist. It's a Cult X is a cult classic. I love Nakamura. I'm very happy to say that we have 3 more books under contract with him, and I'm excited to continue to be his publisher for a really long time. He's definitely, a staple on the Soho list. Now, I want to go from wonderkind to late great master now, and I want to talk a little bit about James Sallis, who is very much on the other end of the still noir and yet on a very different end of the reading experience spectrum from Fuminori Nakamura. I think James Salas is probably best known for his bestseller Drive, which was made into the Ryan Gosling film of the same title. We don't have the privilege of publishing that book, but it's excellent. You should read it. You should watch the movie. They're both great. However, beyond the reading public, I think to writers of both prose and poetry, craftists from every genre, Jim is known for much more, for his very deep and varied oeuvre. He is published widely across many bodies of literature, speculative fiction and crime fiction being perhaps the two most prominent. He was a literary translator and a poet as well, an essayist, a nonfiction writer. His biography of Chester Himes was a prize winner. And on our Soho list, we are very proud to have published his last 4 books before he passed away in January at age 81. And we also reissued his classic New Orleans crime series, which features the detective Lou Griffin. We do have 2 posthumous novels from him that are coming out this year. Well, one came out, World's Edge, which is a post-apocalyptic mosaic novel. I had never heard that term before he introduced it to me, where he shows the fragments of human civilization after the end of several structures, brief and thought-provoking. And then we have a forthcoming novel called Backwater, which will be out in September, I think, about a small town detective. He's like it's a really ruminative piece of prose poetry about this jazz musician who gets turned into a local sheriff, and he's called upon basically to make a difference. And what I wanted to say is that in the way Fuminori Nakamura relentlessly lays bare the darker aspects of human nature, Jim Salas would relentlessly expose the light within. And he would use the noir story structures, and we know murder, disappearance, dissolution, death, to remind us that love and perseverance are the warp and weft of the human experience. And somehow you come out of his noir with this sense of your heart having expanded. And I just think, if you can give Jim a try and let your heart expand a little bit this fall. That's what I want to say about him. Okay, I'll go now.
That's perfect. Thanks, Juliet. All right. We're going to bring up Mette now. Mette, are you with us?
Hello.
Hello. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks for inviting me.
For your first lineup event as well. What can you tell us about Linda Wollheim and The Bishop's Wife?
Okay. I published the first Linda Wollheim book in 2014. It's called The Bishop's Wife. It was a kind of love letter to Mormonism and to my experience of Mormon women who I felt were smart, capable, interesting, and that the public at large sort of saw them as trapped, uneducated, and maybe deluded by a cult mentality. So I wrote, I think of Linda as a kind of Mormon Miss Marple. She snoops. Let's see, I sometimes say she asks to babysit people's kids, and then while they're gone, she snoops around in their underwear drawer and finds out all their secrets. She's a fun character. I think a reviewer friend of mine said something like, I hate her because she does all this illegal stuff. Yes, but she's very sincere in all of it. She's really trying hard to help people and to find out the truth. The first book in this series is about, I have a theme for each of the books. The first book is about abuse, and it was loosely inspired by the Josh and Susan Powell case, which, if you don't remember it from that long ago, Susan Powell disappeared on a very cold night, and her body was never found, still has never been found. She left behind 2 very young children, and her husband insisted that he was innocent for a number of years. And then literally the day that I finished writing the last chapter of my book, I turned on the news and found out the end result of the real life story, not my, not at all the same, but he got custody of his children back and blew them up in a house. So he and his children are all. It was just such a disastrous ending to a very terrible story in real life, and I felt like the Mormon side of that story was not well understood outside of Utah. That, I mean, it got national coverage, but I just didn't think that people could understand the ins and outs. And so I wanted to be able to discuss via the vehicle of Linda and crime novels how Mormonism affects law enforcement within a small community. Linda lives in Draper, although I try to move her around so that people get a view of others. They're still in the Mormon community. But I really felt like that story was not told well. And the same problem has happened over and over again with other big stories that are part of, the national narrative about Mormonism, which are like the Chad Daybell and Lori Vallow story, where her children disappeared and then their bodies were found, and she has been on trial for murder for them and for her ex-husband. And then again with the Taylor Frankie case, which is part of the big Netflix series about Secret Lives of Mormon Wives, and the Ruby Frankie story, where Ruby Frankie had this very popular YouTube series about 8 Passengers is the name of it, about her children. And then, in the end, she became so obsessed with a particular way of thinking and kind of an end of times view of the world that she damaged her children really badly, and she's in prison. Anyway, these are stories that, like, I'm fascinated how the Mormon angle plays out here, and trying to explain it in a way that makes sense to people outside of Mormonism, I think, is the tricky thing, without making it seem like it is an expose. And I tried to keep a very fine line between being honest and still letting Mormons be human beings in the whole series. So the first one is about abuse. The second one is about transgender characters. So it's about sort of gender and authority within Mormonism. The third one is about polygamy. There's one about immigrants and how within the Mormon context, specifically Hispanic immigrants are seen as Lamanites, characters in the Book of Mormon. And then the last one is about rape of a young girl by a group of boys in her ward. And Linda is an advocate for women. She strongly believes in the power of women, but she's not really, I don't think, in any of the books I've written yet anyway, she's not really a feminist. I don't know that she would think of herself that way, but she is very interested in women's issues. The driver behind her story is that she has 5 sons, but she lost a daughter. And so every time she encounters a woman in need, she has this immediate connection and acts as if that's her missing daughter. And she wants to kind of mother and help these women around her through that lens. So the series, like I said, the first one came out in 2014, and the last one came out in 2021. I haven't published any since then because as a result, I mean, I won't pretend it's just me writing that book, but it definitely was part of the equation of my life falling apart and blowing up, and has been in ashes for the last 5 years or so. Hopefully I will be working on some Linda books again. I have an outline that I've been playing with where Linda's life gets blown up. I spent several years after my life blew up, and I kind of wanted Linda's life not to blow up because, I didn't want to hurt other people, even fictional people, in the way that my life was a disaster. So I kept trying to save her marriage. But the current outline is, sort of the end of Linda's happy life and her being thrown into perhaps being forced to be more of a outspoken feminist. So yeah, that's my short version of both Linda's life and mine.
Yeah, thank you. Oh, here comes Juliet.
Yeah, I had something to say about this. I mean,
Okay.
just truly working with Mette during this time when you were living in the church and you were writing about the church. I mean, truly the courage. I've said this a couple times about a couple of these books that they really courageously tackle issues. But you are the one person I know who was exposing the blueprint for crime and interhuman violence in the very community you were living in. Like, you were really confronting it head on, and watching you do that with such bravery and with such elegant storytelling was neat. And in the same way that that Agnete and I should not have talked about that kind of time I picked her up on the train, because that was not a glamorous road trip. I do want to say Mette took me on a very glamorous trip. It was like basically a Mormon show and tell when I visited her in Salt Lake City. And I got to see the temple and I got to go to church. And I really feel so educated by the whole experience of working with you as your editor. I learned so much during this process, not only about Mormonism, which was fascinating, but also religious communities and the way we interact with one another, the labels we put on ourselves and on other people, and how each of us does have this micro community within the greater America that we live in. And I just, these books really, really help us think about our American identity.
I sometimes people use that word brave to describe what I did. I look back now and think perhaps stupid might be a better word for that. I remember you and I sitting down at dinner when I came out for Book Expo to New York, and us having a conversation where I talked about what I would do if I were excommunicated from the church, and that I insisted that I was ready for that. And I look back on that conversation and think, A, no, I was not ready for that. B, what I did not understand was I was never excommunicated, although there were whispers and there have been threats. But what I didn't understand was what else was at stake. The other things that I could lose, that happened sort of on a quieter level. And like, I think I counted at one point how many friends I still speak to from 2014 to now. The percentage is probably about 5, maybe 10% of the same people are in my life. And I mean, even apart from marriage, but like family and friends, people that still will speak to me, that trying to rebuild your own identity amidst that kind of loss, where it's not that they died, like they're still there. They just don't want anything to do with me. And then also the irony of my books are so nice to Mormonism. Like every non-Mormon who reads my book are like, you make Mormons seem so real and so lovable. Like, I do a better job than the Netflix series does at making Mormons real. But as a consequence for doing that, I faced, something like excommunication, social excommunication. So
listen, my heart goes out to you, and I know what you've been through. And I just want to remind you that, humans experience trauma, but artists gather material.
Yeah.
So I can't wait to see if a book does come out of this. We will be very privileged to be able to continue Linda's story.
Mette, thank you so much for joining us. I'm gonna bring Stephen and Agnete back up. If anybody's got any questions.
No, I've got one more, Lily.
Oh, I'm so sorry. I made the schedule and then I skipped it.
You can't. I saved the most important one for last. So
most important for last. Okay, we got one more. I'm so sorry.
No, I know everyone here. It's just that for me, the word Soho Crime and Peter Lovesey are always fundamentally interlaced. I have to talk about Peter Lovesey, although I know everyone on this call, I know a lot of you already know a lot about him because I know you. But Peter Lovesey, the late, great, he passed away in April of 2025, but he was Mystery Writers of America Grand Master, Crime Writers Association Diamond Dagger winner, one of a very short list of authors who have both of those accolades. Truly one of the great practitioners of the genre. He was an author of over 40 novels, in addition to numerous short stories and some nonfiction. and just like one of the great practitioners of the traditional detective novel. Perfect plotting, a puzzle mystery. He always obeyed fair play, golden age fair play rules, which makes the book so much fun to read to solve alongside his detectives. We at Soho did not have the privilege of introducing Peter to the world. His career way predates us by 16 years. His debut came out when he was 34 years old in 1970. We did get to celebrate the 50th anniversary with him in 2020 with he inaugurated a first novel prize, for which, again, we had a fantastic time working with him on that. He discovered Eli Craner's Don't Know Tough, which we published and went on to win the Edgar Award. Truly, Peter gave back much with his of his own self to other writers, and, just really a friend to all. But we did have the privilege of publishing all of his new work starting in 1991, so the last 35 years, and we are proud to have his full backlist library. Please partake of it. I know you're like, where do I even start? I think I'm supposed to talk about first in series here, so I will say his Inspector Peter Diamond series is fantastic. The first book is called The Last Detective. It's about an irascible Luddite investigator who has sort of like explosive, problematic temper and a penchant for eating cake, and he solves all of his cases using old school gumshoe techniques. And this is a 22-book series. You have a lot of joy and puzzle mysteries to encounter there. But I'll just also throw out a note for his own debut, which was the 1970 Wobble to Death, which is about the, to me, very strange Victorian sport of race walking. It's set in the 1870s in London, and it's just it's one of a kind. It's fantastic. It was the manuscript with which he won a first novel prize that he saw advertised in a newspaper, and that went on to launch this 55-year crime fiction career. So I do want to say, Peter, he's a pillar of our list. More widely, he's a pillar of the greater crime fiction community, the genre in general, a generous friend to readers, and always a huge supporter of other writers. He's very integrated into our fabric still, and also a good man to the very fiber of his being, which I think is why his writing is so terrific. He really saw into people's character, and he drew these very realistic characters out of it. And for me, that's, I can say that of all of the authors that I've been lucky to work with who are presenting today, that good people make good characters because they're able to dig deep. And I'm so honored to work with you all. But we here at Soho specifically are honored to keep Peter Lovesey's legacy alive. And I really hope you will join us. So spread the word, read Peter Lovesey, and tell your friends. I will go now.
Thank you so much, Juliet. And actually stay, because I'd love to bring you all up for any Q&A that audience members have. And in the meantime, I would love to ask you, if anything, and of course, always an answer to this question that is valid is, I'm not working on anything. I know this is the most annoying question, but I'd love to know what you're working on now. Steve, do you want to start us off?
No.
And you know what? That's so fair. And I get it.
Well, I've just finished another draft of what I see as the last August snow.
This is where I hear this news, Steve? Wow. Okay, we'll talk.
I'm sorry. No, it's with my lovely agent right now for a little fine tuning. And I love the character. I love the ability to tell the story of different people and different situations. But I want to give August his freedom, and it's possible we may meet up for coffee in the future. It's very possible.
I
But that's
don't blame him for being like wanting a little break though, because he comes out of each of your books with like definitely a bruise on his knee at the very least. You put him through some time, Steve. You do.
oh, then you're gonna love this.
I literally cannot wait.
Yeah. Let's just say a story for our times. But that's what I'm working on. Aside from enjoying the great indoors um, from the oppressive heat dome, which is moving down from. Oh, I'm sorry. But yeah, that's where I'm at, and I'm glad you mentioned James Salas, because I almost when I heard his name, because he blurbed August Snow, and I had the privilege of meeting him one time, and it felt like we were old friends. That's just the way I believe he saw people. And hell of a guitarist and violinist. So, yeah, gotta love you, man.
Thank you.
Susan,
Steve.
thank you. Agnete, what about you?
Actually, yesterday I just finished my second installment in a fairly new series with two female detectives. So hopefully I will have to only proofread from now on. It's been tough, but it's done now, and so I can have kind of a summer vacation. But
Nice.
yeah.
So exciting. Thank you for sharing that with us. I know I didn't prep you guys that I was going to ask this question, so thank you for answering it. Mette, what about you? Anything?
I just finished doing a first draft of the sequel to The Ex-Wives Murder Club, which is a really fun and slightly gory book about three women who have all been married to the same very bad man, and they decide that they're going to murder him, but they're not going to do it quickly, and also they don't think that they are really good at it yet, so they have to practice. So they have to find some people to practice on. They have to be very bad people. They only kill bad people. So it's not really a mystery because we know who kills everyone. But yeah, they make some mistakes early on and then they get better at it. So
That's amazing. Thank you all for joining us. This is such a special year for us at Soho. This has been a kind of a year-long celebration, and it's been so cool as a person that's relatively new to Soho to look back and learn about all of the incredible authors that have been in the press's history. And thank you for joining us. It's really been exciting. We have a few more like exciting things going on throughout the year to celebrate the 40th. Yeah, 3.5
Thank
years.
you.
But thank you so much for all of you, and then all of you at the lineup. Thank you so much for tuning in. The series is about 3 years old as well, so we're just gonna keep chugging along and bringing you really, really wonderful books and the wonderful people that write them. Anybody have any parting words before I announce gift card winners?
No, I just want to thank Juliet, thank you, Lily, all the tremendous folks at Soho. You do an excellent job, and I really don't have to say that because, I turned 72. So, but that's all I have to say.
Thank you, Steve. I want to thank you too, Lily. Lily curates this whole series. She does all this setup, and our friends at Mystery to Me are always there with us all the time. I love watching these. It's fun to be on one, and with all these terrific authors. I know a lot of names in the attendee list. Thank you all for being here. I know you come every session. I recognize your names, so this is just such a cool community. And Lily, thank you for making it all happen.
Oh, thank you guys all for coming. Thanks so much. Elizabeth is our person at Mystery to Me behind the scenes that makes sure that all of this is able to happen. So thanks, Elizabeth, for making sure this happens. Okay. Let's I keep rearranging my screen. Let's do some gift card winners, I think. So our $25 gift card winner to Mystery to Me is Judy Ruck. Judy, thank you for tuning in. We'll be emailing you very shortly after this event with details about your gift card, so don't be afraid. $50 gift card to Mystery to Me is going to Dawn Schifrin. Thank you, Dawn, for tuning in. And then our grand prize winner, our $75 gift card, is going to Susan Coster. Thank you so much for tuning in, Susan, and all of you for coming back. Again, a lot of familiar names here, and it really means a lot to us that you care enough about us to come back every month. So thanks so much, Stephen, Mette, Agnete, thank you so much. Elizabeth, thank you. Juliet, thank you. And we'll see you in July. Stay cool, everybody. Have a good day.